Hey everyone, I'm back with build number 4. Now if you didn't catch the first 3, they were mainly focused on safe mapping, a lot of kind of area damage, explosions, things like that. This one, I'm happy to say, is more for single target damage. So if you were concerned with the other builds not having a lot of single target damage, this one's got plenty of it. So we've got a low life Cyclone Berserker. It's not really anything super original. I just wanted to use the Dreadbeak weapon, which we'll go over later, but originally this was a chieftain, and I really wanted to play on the Ancestral Totems buffs, and it looked really good in PoB, but in practice it just, man, I made it to like 83 and I just wanted to delete the character. It was just not, it was so slow movement-wise, and it just wasn't enjoyable, so I switched to Berserker. It's a lot better. It's not nearly as tanky, which can be a problem. This is not a build you're going to be able to just sit in the middle of the ultimatum and hold down Cyclone. But, again, it has plenty of damage. So that's kind of the focus of this one. And you can see in the background, it does fine in boss fights. There's T14 Drox in there, Shaper, A4 Cyrus, and a T16 Ultimatum. So it can handle any fight. There are some kind of difficult to maneuver things with this build, so if you are brand new starting out, this might be a little rough, but I will include some choices that'll make it a little bit easier, and we'll go over that in the gear section. And even though my goal with this build was mainly single target, the map clear is still very, very good with this character. If you've never played a Berserker, Rage makes them very, very fast. We have something like 40% increased movement speed from Rage. We've got permanent onslaught. We'll have our juiced up Quicksilver Flask. So you move around very, very quickly. And with all the buffs and stuff up, we've got like 3 million Cyclone DPS. So pretty much anything you walk through just explodes. As always, here is the raw currency I got from 70 to 90. This is the first character I didn't get an exalt drop on. And the total amount was actually a lot lower than the rest. I only got a little bit under 500 chaos on this character. That being said, I did get an Unnatural Instinct and a Cortex map, which is about 12 exalts, but I'm not counting that because that's, luck. So first off, I'm sorry about the aspect ratios on the first few clips. I play in ultra wide, but I record in 16:9, and I notice stupid stuff like that all the time when I'm watching videos, so I know someone out there is triggered by it, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it, but we'll get right into it. So this is the character. As I said before, it was supposed to be a chieftain. Well, it was a chieftain, but I switched at about 83 for my sanity because it was just, it wasn't good. Now, this build is good. It worked out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. Little squishy, but again, there's some choices you can make to kind of change that. But we'll cover real quick what gear I used. So we've got Dreadbeak here. So we are Petrified Blood, which is like my favorite mechanic now. So we get the 200% increased damage, and then we've also got permanent onslaught. So we're just running faster, attacking faster. It's speed. It's good, especially for Cyclone because it slows you down. So we got 2 of these. There's nothing really special to look for with rolls. The one thing I'll say is they're like 20 or 25 chaos on trade right now. But you can buy the base item, the Red Beak, and then get the Prophecy for like 3 chaos and upgrade it. So if you want to make money, you could do that. Or be nice. Don't do that. But yeah, so the cheapest way for sure is just buying the Red Beak and then get the Prophecy. Or if you're lazy and you have the extra money, just buy it off somebody. But for our helmet, we've got everybody's favorite. Should need no introduction. Just a massive amount of damage. Really not much to be said about this. When you're looking for one, just try to get as low of an increased physical damage taken roll as you can. But aside from that, the melee crit multiplier is not going to make or break it. Just whatever your budget can afford. For our chest, we've got Bronze Lithe here. So the only role you got to worry about really is the increased damage with movement skills. So Cyclone is a movement skill, so it gets not only the increased damage, but the +2 to gems. So Not as huge a deal with attack skills, the gem levels, but it's still something. It's also got attack speed and movement speed, so it's just all around a good chest for us. As far as colors, try to get these. If you land on 2 green, 2 blue, 2 red, that's fine. Just make sure you have at least 2 green and 1 red so you can fit all your colors in. All right, for our rings, again, nothing special. We're on a budget, so you can't really afford luxury things. Huge resist as much as you can get because we kind of unique heavy on this build. Life, obviously, and then try to get accuracy on at least one of them or your neck, but preferably on your ring because then you can fit different damage affixes on your amulet. Our amulet will be pretty straightforward: flat fizz, life, and then any resist and stats you need following that. So after getting those 4, get either critical strike multiplier or accuracy rating. You can try to get both, but it's going to get really expensive. And if for instance you need 2 resists on your neck, you won't be able to because multiplier and accuracy are both suffixes. So whatever fits, but just make sure your resists and your stats are shored up. So the anoint, which will be about 10 chaos, is Panopticon. So you may be wondering why we're doing a totem enchant. The 50% increase of buffs is massive. So just to give you an example, with both our totems down, it doubles our damage straight up. And the Ancestral Protector itself does about 1.5 million DPS with all of our buffs up. So nothing to scoff at. And this anoint is a massive source of damage. You know the drill on boots. Movement speed, life, resist. Don't worry about anything else. Now for our belt, we have 2 choices, and whichever choice you make, you kind of have to adjust the gloves to fit. So I went with a huge resist belt because I needed it. I mean, I think I'm barely caps here. Yeah, so I had to go with a really, really high resist belt. I couldn't afford a Stygian Vise because I was pretty close to going over budget. At least it felt like it. So I just went with this. So your other option is the Bear's Girdle, the unique girdle. Gives you even more physical damage per rage, max rage, and flat fizz. It's huge damage. But if you do that, you're going to have to get rare gloves. So it'll be up to you kind of how you want to do that. Now, depending on which belt you chose, again, your gloves, you'll have to make a choice. So I went with Adzuri's Acuity. So what this does is every time you crit, you have Veil Pact. Now, Veil Pact doubles our total leech, so we end up leeching like 130% of our total life pool. The only downside is you have no life regen. So the reason I'm using these gloves and not taking the node on the tree is if you have the node on the tree, anytime there's downtime in combat, we're just going to bleed out and die. So if you go back to pick up loot, you're just going to die. Whereas with these gloves, you have to have crit recently, so if you're not in combat, you actually don't have Veil Pact and your life regen will kick in. So if you don't want to deal with the degen and stuff like that, or you want to use the Bear's Girdle, just get a rare pair of gloves, because this is not very friendly if you're newer. I'll just be honest, it's kind of a pain to deal with, but I like the way the gloves look, okay? And they have good stats. They give us all the int we need. But if you don't want to deal with all that crap, just get rare gloves with flat fizz, life, any resist you need, and then like attack speed if you can get it. For your flasks, you got a couple options. We are a crit build, so diamond is mandatory. Quicksilver, I think, is mandatory. And then your third here, if you're having trouble with the degen and everything, just run a health flask. But aside from that, for damage, we've got Sin's Rebirth, which gives us bonus chaos damage, and a little bit of evasion rating, which turns into armor on our tree, and then Lion's Roar. I will go over the Ascendancy real quick, and then we'll get right into links. So, anytime I level a Berserker, I always take Flawless Savagery first. That flat fizz really helps while you're leveling. And sustaining rage is really kind of difficult while you're leveling and zoning and all that. But the order I would take them in is Flawless Savagery, then I would get Crave the Slaughter, and finally Rite of Ruin. So you can put Defy Pain in there if you'd like. You just have to make sure that you take these 3 nodes down here and this Ascendancy or this Pantheon if possible, because that reflect hit will kill you if you don't have ways to mitigate it. So let's start with the Cyclone links. POB will have the extra gems of different colors if you're not able to get these specific colors, but if you do have these, I would recommend this setup. So we have Cyclone here, Close Combat, which is a huge multiplier, and it makes our next Leap Slam faster, so it's kind of helps with movement too. Impale, because we are Impale. Infused Channeling, that's pretty much mandatory on any Cyclone build as far as I'm concerned, and this will also help with, you know, the Abyssus and everything, the increased damage taken. Bloodthirst, we are low life, so mandatory. And then finally Fortify, you could put Ruthless or any other red gem in here you want, but it just makes it so much easier to not have to worry about Fortify on Leap Slam. These links will be in no particular order, and they don't have to be in any specific gear slot. But we'll start with our cast of damage taken here. So we've got Molten Shell linked to it. So this is nice because we've got a decent amount of armor to start out with. And then Defy Pain gives us even more. So this ends up being like a pretty sizable shield. So Assassin's Mark. This will just give us random power charges when we're clearing. And then it'll help with damage on bosses. And finally Ice Golem for crit and accuracy. Next we've got our R's in utility. So over here we've got Leap Slam with faster attacks, just quality of life, makes it a lot easier. Pride, so we are a Mortal Conviction build, which means we can only have 1 aura, and so this will be free, and again we're pure physical, so this is perfect for us. We've got Petrified Blood because we are low life, Blood Rage for the life leech, attack speed, frenzy charges, perfect for us. And finally, Dread Banner for the extra Impale and Impale effect. And finally, for our last 2 4 links, we have got our totems in here. So if you've never done a melee build before, you can actually link Ancestral Protector, Ancestral War Chief, and multiple totems and actually have both out. So you can see here, I've got 3 totems out. Whereas if you didn't have the multi-totems, you'd only be able to summon 1. So something I didn't know is even if you've got the multiple totem in a separate link, it still works. So in this one, I've got our Ancestral Protector linked with Impale, Melee Fizz, and Ruthless. So it's a 4-link totem. It does, like I said, about 1.5 million DPS buffed in combat. And then over here, we've got multi-totems linked with a Veil Ancestral War Chief, Melee Fizz, and Concentrated Effect. So what ends up happening in combat once you have Veil charges is you can drop your normal War Chief, your Protector, and then hit your Veil War Chief, and it will summon 2 on top of that. It'll actually get rid of 1 of the normal War Chiefs, but you'll end up having 1 Protector, 1 War Chief, and then 2 Veil War Chiefs. So they just crush. You can see in the ultimatum clip that I posted, I pretty much take on Quinn 69 and stall as long as I can until those Veil War Chiefs are up, and then just let him solo the ultimatum for me. So that's pretty much it for this one. You know, nothing too crazy, pretty simple build. You know, nothing revolutionary about a Cyclone build, which is kind of why I'm not a fan of Cyclone in general. It's just a boring playstyle to me. But the nice thing is you could pretty much swap in any skill you wanted and it would work just fine. Any melee skill, you could even do the Shattering Steel or Splitting Steel. Those would work fine. If I were to do it again, I'd probably redo like a Flicker Strike build and then put Double Strike in for bosses. But it was, you know, it was fun zooming around the map. So, and for those of you who do really like this, upgrading it damage-wise is so simple. You just swap in a Paradoxica and a Savior and you'll be about 3 or 4 times the damage that we're doing now. So a lot of endgame potential. I would definitely, if you were going to go that route, I would drop the Abyssus and definitely try to get more life, maybe up to like 7k total life, because you can see with Petrified Blood on, we're about 3,300 once the degen's done. So I would definitely try to bump the HP up if you're gonna, you know, push it any farther. with that, though, I'll leave you guys to it. Once again, thank you guys all for the support in the comments and everything. A lot of good suggestions and stuff, so keep them coming, and I will try to keep getting builds out here. My goal is 1 a week, and I did 4 in this last week, so I don't think I can keep up that pace, but you know, we'll see how it goes. I am going to start streaming soon and see how that goes. It'll be Vex00 will be the Twitch stream, and I'll link that below. But I think that's it for today. So thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.